Transformers 1 looks back into the distant past of the franchise, but there's plenty for fans of these characters' later years to catch. Here's what may have slid by you in all the action. There's still a ton of nostalgic goodwill toward 1986's Transformers the movie. Since Transformers 1 is also a fully animated project, it's only natural to include some Transformers the movie Easter eggs. Fans of the classic flick will recall that the song The Touch by Stan Bush features prominently. Early in Transformers 1, when Orion Pax and D16 work in the mines, Orion boasts to Elita 1 that he could touch Sentinel Prime with all his power. She responds, "You don't have the touch or the power." It was actually very important for director Josh Cooley to get some kind of reference to Transformers the movie into Transformers 1. He told Gizmodo, "We had this one version where D16 and Orion were playing a video game. They're playing that together like friends, and the song, like the 8-bit song that's playing, is The Touch." That part had to be cut, but Cooley still managed to reference the song in a more subtle way with Elita 1's cheeky put-down.
It does have a nice ring to it.
There's a ton of lore to keep track of when it comes to Transformers, but fortunately, given that it's a prequel, Transformers 1 is easy to watch, even if you're completely unfamiliar with all the minutiae. The movie hones in on a select few characters, mostly Orion Pax, D16, Elita 1, and B-127. But if you do know all the details, there are nods to plenty of other Transformers if you know where to look.
It's time to show them we are more than meets the eye.
Jazz, Optimus Prime's right-hand bot, has been a fan-favorite Transformer since the beginning. He's not a major character in Transformers 1, but when the mine's collapsing in the first act, he's the one who gets stuck. Orion insists on staying behind to get him out of there, and he does. Jazz also supports Orion later as he rallies the miners to stand up against Sentinel Prime. It's a much more respectful interpretation of the character than the first live-action Transformers movie, in which Megatron kills Jazz in a shock moment that barely impacts the plot. The Iacon 5000, Cybertron's most prestigious racing event, is also a feast for fans. The leaderboard has numerous names that will sound familiar, from Motormouth to Double Clutch. The stands are also filled with cheering bots, and if you look hard enough, you'll no doubt recognize some designs. A name most people will likely recognize on the Iacon 5000 leaderboard is Mirage, who's actually in first place for the brief glimpses we get of the rankings. Mirage was voiced by Pete Davidson in 2023's Transformers: Rise of the Beasts, which is an appropriate casting considering he's a jokester throughout the franchise.
Tough guy. I like that. I like it a lot.
But he's also incredibly fast, with some illusion-creating abilities. It makes sense that he'd be in first place then. It's also understandable that Mirage would have been born with a transformation cog, as he's part of the elite class throughout much of Transformers lore. He comes from wealth, but joins the Autobots when he realizes the fight against the Decepticons will impact him too. We learn in Transformers 1 that many of Cybertron's citizens should have transformation cogs, but Sentinel Prime saw to it that they were removed, creating a lower social rung of miners. Orion Pax and D16 get banged up pretty bad during the Iacon 5000. After the race, they're waiting in a medical wing, likely expecting to be chewed out for jumping in the race when they weren't supposed to. While they wait, someone over the intercom mentions a Dr. Ratchet. Ratchet is a medical officer in the Transformers franchise. Audiences don't get the chance to see him in Transformers 1, but he is clearly around. He had a sizable presence in the live-action Transformers movies before getting killed by Lockdown in Transformers: Age of Extinction. Optimus Prime came out of hiding to avenge his death and killed Lockdown in kind.
They slaughtered Ratchet! I'm gonna tear them apart!
It's pretty amusing to hear him referred to as Dr. Ratchet as opposed to just Ratchet, which is what he typically goes by. The medical signifier almost calls to mind Nurse Ratchet from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, played by Louise Fletcher. But it's safe to say that this Ratchet is a medically trained transformer and not a sadistic authoritarian. Orion Pax and D16 get banished to Sublevel 50, where they meet the incredibly talkative B-127.
Fantastic.
He's been down there for who knows how long, and he reveals that to keep his sanity, he made some friends out of the junk he received from the higher levels. He introduces his new friends to his old friends, including one entity named AA-tron. Keegan-Michael Key voices B-127, which is appropriate, as he's an immensely talented comedic actor, and B-127 offers much of the comedic relief throughout the movie. The name AA-tron is a clear nod to the famous Key and Peele sketch, Substitute Teacher.
Ron, where are you? Where is Ron right now?
There's another deep-cut reference among B-127's friends, as the last one is simply named Steve.
Steve?
But a Steve actually exists in Transformers canon. He's a Viacon who forgot his real name and started going by Steve after reading it on a billboard. When Orion Pax and his friends go to the surface to find the Matrix of Leadership, the only Prime left alive is Alpha Trion.
You have the power to make your world better.
His is the voice Orion Pax listens to at the very beginning of the film when he breaks into the archives and finds a recording about the creation of the original 13 Primes. You could argue that Alpha Trion is only there to explain the plot and keep viewers in the loop. However, it makes sense that Alpha Trion is the one used to deliver exposition, as he's canonically Cybertron's records keeper. He's even been referred to as the archivist of Iacon. Alpha Trion narrating the records at Iacon City and then providing the footage of how Sentinel Prime betrayed the Primes is in line with what we know of his character from other Transformers media. Sadly, he's killed, so he likely won't get to further mentor Optimus Prime in the coming war with the Decepticons, but having Lawrence Fishburne deliver much of the backstory certainly helps it go down smoother. In the 1980s, the world was introduced to transforming robot toys in the form of GoBots. Some may think GoBots exist among the many ridiculous Transformers ripoffs, but they actually predate the robots in disguise. GoBots, made by Tonka, came out in 1983, while Hasbro's Transformers debuted in the US in 1984. One could argue they were both predated by the Japanese Diaclone and Machine Robo lines of transforming robot toys, but that's beside the point. The Transformers became the clear leading brand after release, both at toy stores and in the overall zeitgeist. After all, there's no movie coming out this year called GoBots 1. What you may not know is that the two actually exist under the same banner now, as Hasbro acquired Tonka in 1991. In Transformers 1, GoBot is some kind of in-universe reference because at one point, Elita 1 refers to D16 and B127 as two idiot GoBots. Given the insulting context, it doesn't sound like the term GoBot is held in such high regard on Cybertron at this point in time. Whether GoBots exist in this universe or the term is just used to put down other Vehicons, it's a funny little reminder of Transformers' beginnings that no doubt got a lot of chuckles from longtime fans in the audience. While some references in Transformers 1 are right in your face, others fade into the background, only noticed by the most extreme of fans who pay attention to every last detail. That's the case when Orion Pax and his squad meet Starscream and the rest of the Cybertronian High Guard. Starscream is definitely one of the most popular and evil Decepticons, having been involved in some of the most terrible things any Transformer has ever done.
Okay, so he's a little intense.
Yeah, just a little.
Special attention was given to Starscream's throne, which is in the shape of the crown he wore in the 1986 movie. In certain lighting within the scene, it even comes across as golden, just like the crown. Josh Cooley explained to Gizmodo how he didn't even know about this particular Easter egg until he spoke with the film's production designer, Jason Schreier. Many Transformers fans worked on this movie, and Cooley was totally cool with them adding whatever details they wanted. A giant battle breaks out at the climax of Transformers 1 with Elita tussling with Arachnid, who works for Sentinel Prime. Arachnid proves pivotal to the plot, as Orion Pax and his cohorts need to get video footage from her memory banks. The fight itself has multiple intriguing layers to dig through. First, Arachnid has the shape of a spider, and not just any spider, a Black Widow. Elita is voiced by Scarlett Johansson, who famously played Black Widow in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So you could say that two Black Widows are going at it. Interestingly, Elita becomes a character called Black Arachnia in Transformers Animated.
My friends call me Black Arachnia.
As Elita, she fought alongside Optimus Prime and the Autobots, but after getting abandoned on an alien world, she develops a spider-centric mutation and becomes Black Arachnia, joining the Decepticons after becoming disillusioned with the Autobots' cause. Transformers 1 already shows D16's fall as he goes from Orion Pax's friend to his sworn enemy as Megatron. Could a potential Transformers 1 sequel see a similar fate befall Elita, with her ultimately joining Megatron's side? It's far too early to say, but it's still fun to consider the future. D16 is a total fanboy for Megatronus, his favorite of the Primes. Fans know him by another name, the Fallen. He's typically portrayed as a god of chaos, and he's the antagonist of Transformers: Revenge of the Fallen. We don't really see much of Megatronus, we only hear how much D16 looks up to him, with Megatronus serving as the basis for D16's new name, Megatron. Throughout the film, the antagonists each sport Megatronus's transformation cog. Sentinel Prime took Megatronus's cog as his own, and after D16 rips Sentinel apart, he inserts Megatronus's cog into himself. It's possible the cog could have some kind of corrupting power, though though both Sentinel and D-16 displayed evil tendencies before getting it. At the very least, it seems that Transformers with darkness in their sparks are drawn to Megatronus. Given that Sentinel had his cog, it could be that Megatronus is dead, but his spirit lives on in Megatron, the new threat to Cybertronian peace.